The world is talking about the metaverse. Everyone's going, what is it? What is it? What is it?
Today, I am speaking with Pierre Dad, former CMO of Terra Virtua, a gamified metaverse for immersive social, Web3 gaming, digital collectibles, and interactive experiences. Explain to me what Terra Virtua does.
Our purpose as a brand is about igniting passion with our audience and helping them to experience and engage with brands in ways they've never been able to do so before. It's taking people on a whole new experience and how they engage with a property.
How do you communicate from a marketing perspective?
So the mass market audience, we take on a journey. We need to educate them as well. We can't just go in there and go, boom, we want you to buy this. It's about educating them on what's an NFT, why would I want one, what can I do with it? And the key learning for me is that importance of community, and it's treating the community as a really key stakeholder in your business and building that excitement and exclusivity around the...
Welcome to Top CMO. I'm here with Pierre Dad, CMO of Terra Virtua. And Pierre, the first thing I want to ask you is, your career spans from Lego all the way to the cutting edge of the blockchain, Metaverse, NFTs right now. Take us through the quick version of like how what you learned at Lego impacts you as you help people enter the Metaverse today.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just Lego. I'd say it's the rounded, inadvertently through no structured career path. I feel like I've come to that point where I've got my experience from from Lego, from Disney, from working in virtual worlds to then moving into online marketplaces. And now it feels like I've hit, again, inadvertently hit that point where it's bringing all those experiences together. So for me, I mean, those experiences were, they were foundational for me. I think you learn organizations such as that, you learn the true foundations of marketing, which has just given me that platform as I move forward with my career. So they've been great, build foundation basis for me to move forward on.
A lot of those businesses, whether it's a Lego, whether it's a Disney, whether it's someone else, they're all built on intellectual property that's valuable. And now explain to me and our listeners what Terra Virtua does and how it sort of finds new ways to unlock value of different intellectual property.
Sure. So, I mean, our whole business proposition is all about, our purpose as a brand is about igniting passion with our audiences. And that's about tapping into those passion points of what they love and what they enjoy and helping them to experience and engage with brands in ways they've never been able to do so before. Right? It's taking people on a whole new experience and how they engage with a property. So, for example, at what we do as a brand, we work with, leading entertainment properties such as, we were one of the first actually, now I think of it, the first NFT marketplace to work with a major movie studio to help launch, a AAA movie, right? So Godzilla versus Kong last year. So what we did with that was, audiences could engage with that movie, with that franchise. What we did was we created, let's say, what would appear to be life-size King Kongs. You could take King Kongs into what we call the Terraverse, which is a place where you can engage with Kong and you can see Kong like this in almost full size. And, that's things you could never really do before. So it's the difference of, buying something static to having something that in a world where you can really go and engage with it. So that's one element. And then, we've recently just signed a really exciting deal with Williams Racing, the F1 team. And we're in the process of starting to develop assets and what that will be. And again, it's about how can we work with major brands, be it whatever category, be it music, be it sports, be it entertainment, and give their fan base, as well as ours, but, a new way to engage with that brand. And that's what we're all about. And that's what's really exciting is one day it could be motorsports, one day it's music, one day it's entertainment. It's about how do we bring all these pieces together? But then the really exciting bit now is taking it from, as it was, we have been an NFT marketplace. We're on this journey now to reposition ourselves as a metaverse hub. And now you've got even more utility for those NFTs. And I think that really helps, especially when you're talking to a uneducated mass market or who are just getting into this. suddenly you can go, well, actually now you can take your NFT into the metaverse, and there's all these other experiences that you can have with that property. So that's where it's really exciting now.
And explain for those that don't know, when you make the distinction of the brand positioning from an NFT marketplace to a metaverse hub, what is the difference? It's your ability to how you can utilize that NFT property that you had in multiple ways in a metaverse environment, or explain the difference.
Yeah. So previously or currently, before we're about to get into the metaverse, and we're going to be launching our metaverse properties and platforms very soon. Previously or currently, we're a marketplace, we're a curated marketplace. So we work with specific properties, be it, or artists, for example. You'd come in there, you'd purchase your NFT, and you would enjoy that NFT, digitally, obviously, but then you could also take it into different environments. So a fan cave, which is where you can display all of your assets that you've purchased from Terra Virtua, right? So you can go in there and enjoy it. Or the larger ones, as I said about Kong, for example, you can take it to the Terra Dome. So that's the proposition as it stands at the moment. But then we also have a virtual art gallery where you can do a tour and look at a whole range of art that's been displayed. So those are the elements at the moment. But then it'll be how do you take those pieces into the metaverse? How do you enjoy them and consume them in the metaverse? And what a great example of that is a property you're working with called Nitro League Racing. And you can then take the car. So we're selling the cars as an NFT on the marketplace already. What you'll then be able to do is take those cars into the metaverse and race them and have an experience, racing one-on-one. You'll be able to build up the attributes of that vehicle. If you win, great, you build up the attributes. If you lose, you might lose that car to the guy you're racing or the person you're racing against. Or you can break it up and sell it apart. So it's about, again, the depth of experience that you can have with it, but and also the real world monetary element of it as well, which is really good.
When you think about marketing and your purpose is to ignite the passions of fans, and you're igniting them in a new way. Maybe they didn't realize they want to take their car NFT and race it against someone else and have sounds like almost like a Fast and Furious experience with it in your metaverse. How do you communicate from a marketing perspective to maybe three different groups of targets? You have the true community members, diehard, tried and true community members who you don't have to educate them what this is. You have those that are maybe a second group is like the dabblers, right? They're not coming in raw, but they're not immersed in it. They're sort of, they've done some things and they want to do more. And then you have someone that just saw like, what the heck, Facebook changed their name to Meta. Suddenly, Tom Brady is talking about his NFTs that he's offering, and now they just want in. How do you market to those three very different groups?
I think there's a couple of layers to that. One is about the proposition that we have for each of those different audiences. So, for example, with some of the properties we're talking to, you would look at a mass market element to that proposition, to that IP. So if let's say, I won't use an example because some of the stuff we're sort of in the process of developing.
You mentioned like F1 racing or something like that, right?
Yeah,
maybe someone's an F1 fan, but they know nothing about the metaverse.
Exactly. So we're not going to go in hard and go in there with some really expensive items that they're not going to be able to grasp. Why would I pay this much money for this item? We need to take those audiences on a journey. So the mass market audiences we take on a journey. We need to educate them as well. We can't just go in there and go, boom, we want you to buy this. It's about educating them on, what's an NFT? Why would I want one? What can I do with it? Educate them on sustainability, and try and overcome some of those barriers before we even get into and here's some product we want to sell, right? So we've got to take them on that journey to start with. But then it's about the proposition. So it might be a much lighter touch product that we put in front of the mass market to start with, and hopefully to take them on that journey as we feed them through. But when you're talking to a core community angle, of course, absolutely. Then you're talking to people who are looking at these items more as an investment, perhaps more than just as a casual fan. And that's where we're getting into sort of, the product proposition will be probably a lot deeper. The price point will be higher, and we'll start to sort of work on that sort of journey with them versus the lighter touch that would go with a mass market audience.
I see. And then how do you, when you say the journey, what are the touch points with this? What are the marketing channels? You're in a B2C space. You're marketing to consumers. I can tell just by looking at your presence here. There's things you're doing, whether that's influencer marketing or PR or sort of community marketing. What are some of the tactics that you're using, and how do those two different groups sort of experience those touch points differently?
Well, I just want to take a step back before we get into tactics. I think overall the strategy is kind of threefold. One is about building awareness for the brand and building up that consideration so that when they come into market, we want to be the destination, the NFT marketplace, the metaverse in the future. That's where we want to be. So one is about building the brand. Second part is about the education stream. And that is, from a mass market level, as we talked about, it's overcoming some of those barriers. Of course, when we get into a core audience, it's educating them on Terra Virtua and what we are as a business and our history and our foundations and how we operate, and giving them the understanding and we want them to buy into us as a property or as a business, and we want them to come on the journey with us. So there's three streams, and then of course we get down to the sort of conversion layer where we've got we have the core elements of the community, or it might be performance marketing, whatever that may be. So there's three strands.
Okay, and kind of a classic consumer journey from awareness to consideration to purchase.
Absolutely, yeah. And then when we get into different tactics, it's a key part of that is PR, obviously, right? It's about we want to build up the profile of the founders, our CEO and our chairman who started the business 5 years ago. It's a key part of that is to get those guys front and center. Yes, you're absolutely right. It's about influencers. It's about building up our engagement on our social channels. It's about the community and how we engage with the community, day in, day out, 24/7, and making sure that, again, they're totally up to speed with what we're doing. They're engaged with what we're doing. We get feedback from them. We're sharing ideas with them. It's about what I've found, right? Coming from a traditional marketing background, coming into the Web3 world, and it's the importance, and the key learning for me is that importance of community and understanding that actually, in this decentralized world, it's the audience want, they almost own, they're all almost shareholders of the business in a sense. And so keeping those guys engaged and educated and understanding where we're going and on the roadmap and what we're doing is, absolutely fundamental to the success that we have.
Well, and I think sometimes people miss that about like a very strong community element, like something like crypto or blockchain or metaverse, because I think brands, more like traditional brands that are not in those spaces, start to dabble in that. Like, let's say you have a brand where you're, you're a potato chip brand, and then you're like, what, let's get our fans, our customers, our consumers helping ideate new flavors. Let's do a contest. Let's do this. So those other brands start to be like, we need to get engagement. Or you have in other fields, like you're marketing a new book or a movie, and you're like, okay, let's get some feedback. Where do they want this character to go? If you're doing a book, what should the cover design look like? So sort of outside of this world, there's this notion of, yes, we need like engagement from consumers because they're going to pay money for this, but let's make them a stakeholder. But it's a whole other level in sort of a community like a blockchain when you're marketing to that. Explain that about like why that community dynamic is so critical in a way that goes beyond maybe things that are more traditional, CPG brands, for instance, that are.
Yeah, I think you use the word stakeholder. I think that's it. It's treating the community as a really key stakeholder in your business, and I think that's the differentiation as opposed to a group to get feedback from. They are a key stakeholder. As I said, they're almost like shareholders in the business, and so I think that's the mentality you've got to go in with and treat them and work with those guys collaboratively, throughout day in, day out, essentially. And so it may be that we're sharing new visuals of a new app, but it may be that we're talking, we're doing some sort of competition, but it could be anything. But it's a very engaged process that or engagement process that we have with them on a regular basis. And it's about building up the right team to make sure that we have the right people in the right communities that act as, and the admins that really work in there.
And why does something like, for someone who's heard about this maybe from the outside of this, like, what is this, like, Bored Ape Yacht Club? And why is this a sort of a status symbol? And they're selling in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and there's like numbered apes that you can essentially own. Explain that to someone trying to grasp that, and why apes? Why not something else that is sort of this area that people kind of latched onto as something that they could like sort of understand and gravitate and would have a very strong community?
I think something like apes, I mean, obviously I can't speak directly to what they've done, but I can tell you about what I've read. And in terms of how, apes or even doodles or something like that, how they've built their community up and broached it from the start. So, apes is kind of a anomaly almost in the sort of traditional sense, because they didn't go out with, spending lots of investment in terms of marketing, all these sorts of things. They did it from the sort of ground up, from the community angle, and building that hype and building that excitement and exclusivity around the property, which is what gets people excited. And it's also, I mean, obviously the artwork is key as well. It's very sort of, cutting edge these days in terms of Web3 and that appeal. So that is one key thing. But then it's also about how, it's not just opening the floodgates, it's doing things in stages with the community and building the excitement, not opening up to everybody, keeping that degree of exclusivity. And also a massive part of this is also the background storytelling as well. And, for me, it's kind of like, why is a piece of art worth so much? It's because of the background. It's the story. It's the profile of the artist and what they've done, and the rationale and the reasoning for them creating that piece of work that they've done. And I think that's kind of, in a way, it's this kind, for me, it's kind of the same when you're talking about Bored Apes. That it's that backstory that's really important. Plus the other elements that gets people so excited about it, right?
And the story that's the backstory of maybe the community or the platform or the company or the artist, that it interacts with the person's story and how you express yourself, right? Because did you choose Bored Ape, number 40 or number 44, and this one's wearing a beanie and this one's, has this other detail that you can express your story through that. So somehow these stories are colliding and creating value in a unique way that people can get passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and then what's really exciting, I think, in the world we're in is how it then how it moves forwards from there. So, suddenly, not that I own one, unfortunately, but suddenly, you are the IP holder of that ape, and then that opens up secondary revenue opportunities for you as the IP owner. And I think, you've seen, they're going on merchandise. I've saw, there's a fast food branded Bored Apes. There's all sorts of things going on up there, which, in the old world, you just couldn't do this sort of thing. So I think that's, as the person, the owner of that ape as well, there's so much more you can do with these apes, which is craziness, but in an exciting way.
Sure, of course. Now explain me something. You referenced something that becomes that your company, your brand has marketed based on, which is sustainability, and this notion of that, in this space, there's a carbon footprint that haven't, and maybe there's a way to either be carbon neutral, or I know in some cases like carbon positive is a new thing. Let's be carbon positive as well. So talk about this idea of sort of marketing via, doing good, and why that's a part of your message now, why you think that's important.
Yeah, I think, look, there's a big misconception out there that NFTs are, planet killers out there. And then now there may be the case in the past, but it's certainly not today.
Explain why. Because of the energy that's necessary to power, what underlies NFTs on the blockchain, correct?
Absolutely. And I think in my personal opinion, what's happened is, obviously there's been a lot of media attention around, Bitcoin and the mining that goes on and the amount of energy consumed. And I think that for me has transferred over into NFTs. And I think there's that misconception there that NFTs are consuming ridiculous amounts of energy when you mint an NFT and authenticate it on the blockchain. Now, what we've done is we're working with Polygon, and what we've when we made the move, we were looking at the data, and the difference between this is that previously when we minted an NFT, it would use the equivalent energy of publishing 83 paperback books, right? When we moved to Polygon, that changed the equivalent of sending 2 emails. So it's absolutely negligible in terms of the energy that is used when we're minting an NFT. So we can stand back and say, yes, absolutely, we're doing things, on a very sustainable way when it comes to our minting.
Why make that a central part of your marketing message? Why is that important to do that in terms of your community?
Well, I think especially when you go, again, talking about different audiences, especially when you're talking to a mass audience where, a lot of people have heard about NFTs. It was in the UK, it was, word of the year last year, in the UK, right? It's craziness. So a lot of people have heard about it, but I think few people actually, outside of our Web3 world, few people actually understand what it means. And the misappropriation of, the not very sustainable, that's what people latch onto. So I think for us, it's absolutely fundamental that we talk about this when we're going to market, but it's also about when we're working with and talking to prospective partners as well. Of course, big brands do not want to work with, it doesn't fit with their sustainability strategy as well. So we've got to fit in there as well. But it's absolutely fundamental. I think for me, it's one of the key, especially when we're talking to a mass audience, it's one of the key barriers that we need to overcome.
And what about this notion, because a lot of the marketing is community-based, of being authentic, being trustworthy, being trusted? Why does that become a tenet in sort of marketing in this kind of space, that authenticity and trust is an asset of your brand that becomes necessary?
Absolutely. I think there's a few elements to that question, or a few answers to that question. One of the key things we want to get across when we're talking to people is that, we've been around for sort of 4 to 5 years now, whereas you see a lot of...
Which is a long time, right?
Which is a lifetime. It's a lifetime in this world.
Yes.
And whereas I think last year when we had the real, especially sort of the March last year, when all the hype was at its peak, there was people jumping in all the time. Whereas we're going, look, actually, we have been around for I guess the idea conceived 5 years ago, actually as a business around for 4 years. And we've been there, and we want, we work with brands in a legitimate way. We respect the brands, we respect the fans. We're not just going out there and just putting anything out there, or putting any product out in the market. We're working with brands in the right way to deliver, a premium experience for our user base and their user base as well. So that's really, really important in terms of who we are, because, I think what we've seen with over the last few weeks as well, with the market going under a bit, or quite a bit, I should say, I think, and the hype of NFTs started to dissipate. I think what we'll start to see is there'll be fewer but more established players left in the marketplace, and that we are of course one of those guys, and we'll start to see that the rewards from that coming in the future as well.
What are the biggest challenges that you face, or anyone marketing in the metaverse? What keeps you up at night? What are the challenges? What are the blockers that you experience?
Yeah, I think the challenges are the ones I've kind of alluded to already. So when you're talking at a mass level, it's overcoming the sustainability, it's overcoming the usability or the use case, and that trust issue. I mean, I feel like we're sort of history repeating itself a little bit at this point, right? So, I saw a thing surfaced not so long ago of Bill Gates talking to David Letterman, and David Letterman's going to Bill. So this internet thing, what is it then, right? And he's trying to convey what it is to him, and I feel like we're in that same place when it comes to the metaverse, right? Everyone's going, what is it? What is it? What is it? And then people have different views of what it is and different opinions of what it is. But it feels like we're at the cusp of that place. But I think what I'm getting to is, I think there's lots, and sorry, on that point of, back in the early days of the internet, when a lot of businesses saw it as a USP, whereas that, in fact, the reality being, as we all know now, it's just another channel in terms of your go-to-market approach. And I think that's what we're seeing at the moment is lots and lots of brands and businesses wanting to jump in on this and get involved in it. But it's also trying to find to do it in the right way and do things with the right partners and not just jump in for the sake of jumping in, but how does it really add value to your audience, to your brand? I think those are some of the key things that I do think about a lot. And then absolutely, it's how, when we're working with new partners, it's the minutiae of really getting under the skin of that property, really understanding it, and how we then create value for them, and we're creating the most amazing products and experiences that we can then take to those audiences, and all those sorts of things on a day-to-day basis.
And almost like a form of partner marketing, but in its purest form, because you're just trying to get these two passionate fan bases, that to collide and get together, and in your business, partner marketing isn't sort of like a nice to have, or it gives you exposure to other audience. I mean, it does those things, but it's actually like essential to making your work.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's one and the same, and it's building those relationships with our partners and developing programs, marketing product programs together as one, not one side operating over here, the other guy's operating over.
Sure. And finally, to wrap up, what has been the impact as bigger players, bigger tech companies have entered the space? Facebook changes its name to Meta. Square becomes Block. It's the hottest thing. And then there's a bit of a crypto sort of kind of crash or winter, as they call it, and that affects it too. How did that work? When Facebook changed its name to Meta, others kind of followed suit. How did that affect? What did you observe? How did it affect the marketing of what it is that the Terra Virtua does?
I think as you'll read, there's varying opinions about what is being brought to market by some of those bigger companies. But I think what it has done is it's absolutely heightened the awareness of the metaverse and what it means or an interpretation of what it means, I should say. So I think from that side, it's been really beneficial because it's brought it to the world, and the world is talking about the metaverse. Maybe they don't, and not everybody quite understands what it is, and everyone has a different opinion of what it is. But it's brought that heightened awareness, and it's made those big brands want to get involved in it. And some of them are doing it, the right way, some of them less so, I'd say. But it's brought it to the fore. And I think that's really exciting because it's then pushing the market forward, and it's enabling brands such as ourselves to then, build off that and move ourselves forwards at the same time.
And final question, when we look back 5 years from now, we look back on our conversation today and everything that happened since, what are we going to say about the smartest marketers in the next 5 years who really figure this out and sort of crack the code here? What do you think they're going to do? What are the things that they're going to figure out maybe better than other folks when we look back at this period in time 5 years from now?
Wow, that's a good question. I think I'll tell you from my own experiences, right? Just as a side point, but the learnings you take from, I talked at the beginning about Lego and the foundational marketing experience I had from a company. That stuff doesn't go away. That stuff's still relevant, right? The basis of that are still there, and those are still needed, and day in, day out in terms of what I do and what, working with a team, what we deliver. I think what I've learned in terms of that change of, then you're working with this community that you've got to engage on a daily basis, as we've talked about, and layering in some of those differences. But it's not to say all the stuff that I've learned before is out the window. It's about how do I bolt on the new learnings to my sort of data bank of experiences. And I think moving forward into, from 5 years from now, that will still be the case. There'll be new experiences and new ways to go to market. And, there's virtual influencers and all these sorts of things coming through now. There will be so I think there will be definitely some new bits, but I think there'll be evolutions of current practices as well, as just as there is today. And again, the influencer one is a great example. Influencer is not a new thing. Having a virtual influencer and as an avatar is a complete new thing. And I think we will see, but I think for me, there's a lot of core foundational marketing experience that you can then apply, but you've got to adjust it, and you've got to learn as there's a lot of learning as you go as well. You've got to be open-minded and not go, well, I've been doing this for so many years and that's the right answer. When someone goes, yeah, but, and you go, oh, right. And it's I've learned a lot in the last year I've been here coming from a traditional background into this new world. It's been a real learning experience as well.
Well, and so maybe 5 years from now, maybe the smartest marketers or the most successful marketers will be the ones that adapt the fastest and learn the fastest and are agile and are quick and are jumping on opportunities. And maybe marketing agility will be the thing that's.
I think that's exactly it. I think that's exactly it. It's being how you adapt to the situations, and as again, working in this market or in this category, it's you're working at 100 miles an hour all the time. It's not we're planning out a campaign 6 months from now. You've got to be on it. Absolutely.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much, Pierre Dadd, CMO at Terra Virtua. Thank you so much for joining us on Top CMO.
Thank you very much.